The Locked On NBA mock draft is out, and boy, did you all hate what I did. I don't hate what I did, but I agree with a lot of your criticisms. I thought I'd be able to hold off till Monday, but we need to talk about it. Plus, it's the Magic's 35th anniversary season, and there is a lot that's going to be celebrated, and a diss rap included. We'll get to all that on today's Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is June 16th, 2023. My name is Philip Rossman. I'm the expert insight editor over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, like I said, the Locked On NBA mock draft is out. I did things that I regret, things that I don't regret, ideas that I don't regret. But definitely a lot of criticism from the Magic fan base. So I am going to take a moment to explain what I did, invite you to listen to it, disagree with it. I'm terrible at some of these things. I'm reactive. I'm not proactive on this stuff. And this is kind of the reason why. I'm going to chat about my philosophy, what I was thinking at the time, and more importantly, how things have changed. Because I've been mentioning this to everyone that criticized me. He's like, yes, I agree that this isn't the draft that I would do today. It was the draft I did when we did it. I'll get to all that here in a minute. Plus, the Orlando Magic unveiled their 35th anniversary logo and the beginnings of some of the celebrations. We'll talk about what to expect for this 35th anniversary season. Plus, Shaq's diss rap renews a big conversation that will be played out throughout the course of the season. We'll get to all that coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day, every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day, every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for. The Locked On Podcast Network, it's your team every day. Today's podcast is also brought to you by the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Okay. I wanted to try and wait until Monday to do this. Monday is our mock draft Monday. Talking about a mock draft seemed like the right thing to do. I have plans for Monday. It's our last mock draft Monday. There's some prospects I want to talk about during that show. My mock draft isn't changing drastically. I am planning to publish a fresh mock draft on OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Sunday night, Monday morning. We'll see when that happens, but we'll chat about that, kind of my last run through the draft. We'll do that on Monday. I thought maybe I could get away with holding off on this until Monday, but I created such a stir. And look, I agree. What I did in the Locked On NBA mock draft was controversial. It was controversial to the people that were in the room. I argued passionately. I don't know if it got into the episode or not, but I argued passionately for what I did in the mock draft. I'm going to explain my reasonings here in a minute. I don't think I'm being irrational. And as I always kind of tell people, like, look, I can be on, like, I'm willing to give things a chance. I can be on board with things unless they're irrational, unless they're a step too far. Now, if you think I went a step too far, that's fine. If you think I mismanaged assets, honestly, I would agree with you. Like, even after I did what I did, I was like, on its face, this isn't a good deal, but there's something else at work behind it. So let me dive into for some of you who are listening, like, what is he talking about? Well, we had a bonus episode yesterday, Locked On NBA mock draft, published in full yesterday. No waiting a day or anything. I picked at 6, picked at 11. And what I ended up doing was I drafted Grady Dick at 6, which caused a big stir in the room. And honestly, the reason why I picked Grady Dick at 6, because as I've said, that this whole draft process, my goal was to get a shooter. We will sit here on Friday, Thursday night for me, but Friday for you guys when it publishes. We will sit here on Friday, and if the Magic don't have one of Grady Dick or Jordan Hawkins, I will come on here and I will say that I'm a little disappointed, to be perfectly honest. My goal in this draft was to come away with one of those two players. So you're probably asking yourself, so then why didn't you just wait at 11 for him? I'll get to that reason here in a minute. But part of the reason why was because I swung a trade. I went into this mock draft wanting to be aggressive and wanting to be aggressive, seeking out veteran players. I'll explain again why that was such a priority for me in a minute. But what I ended up doing with 11 is I traded 11 Chuma Okeke and Bol Bol to the New York Knicks for Isaiah Hartenstein and 2 second-round picks. And one of those second-round picks was Detroit's 2024 second. So that's a pretty high-level second-round pick. I would agree, before I even get into some of the reasons and some of the underpinnings on that, on why I thought that was a good deal, I would agree on its face that is not a great deal for the Orlando Magic. Isaiah Hartenstein is not worth the 11th pick in most drafts. But I think that backup center is such a critical role for this team. It's the most critical immediate need for this team. And I did not like the options I had in free agency. I can fill a lot of roles for this Magic team in free agency. If Taylor Hendricks is your guy, I can go sign Trey Lyles. If finding shooting is what you think you need, if Grady Dick isn't your guy and you say, well, you shouldn't have taken Grady Dick. Well, yeah, sure. Gary Trent Jr. is out there. Lonnie Walker, to some extent, is out there. There are quality shooters out there. To me, the biggest deficit in free agency this offseason is that backup center role. And as I've noted, anytime I talk about the backup center role, Wendell Carter is going to miss 15 to 20 games. I hope he doesn't. I would love it if he doesn't. But in 5 years in the NBA, he has not played more than 67 games, I think, in the season. That's guaranteed 15 games he's going to miss. That's nearly a quarter of the season. I approached this mock draft though thinking that we are a playoff team, thinking that this Magic team is going to the playoffs, and I need to start doing things to set this team up for the playoffs. Now, Grady Dick at 6 is a reach. I will agree with that. I was not confident he would still be there at 11. I had a deal to move down from 6 that I wasn't so sure on. To me, Hartenstein was kind of the best backup center I could find. I had a deal in for Daniel Gafford as well, set up that I would move down from 6 to 8. And today, that's probably what I would do. This mock draft we conducted, I think it was the week after the lottery. And usually we conduct this a little bit later. So, and usually it takes a few days. Like we did this all on like one Zoom call, which we've never done in my 7 years doing Locked On, which, great. That it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing this draft. We all sat in a room and just commented on everyone's picks. And I got roasted, and rightfully so. I was not confident Grady Dick would still be there at 11 if I stayed at 11. And to me, at that point, that was my prize. To me, at that point, what I was focused on in my draft analysis and what I was thinking the Magic needed to do was to set this team up for the playoffs. I think I went in the room. I don't know if it made the show, but I think I went in the room and I said, look, the Magic don't need to get younger. They're the third youngest team in the league. If we're making the playoffs next year, if that's our goal, if that's what we want to do organizationally, I need some veterans. I need some older guys. And if I'm not using the asset to its fullest, it may not make complete sense to other teams, but for me and my needs and my goals, it made sense. Now I sit here and tell you that this is what I was thinking on that day of the mock draft. I will defend my reasoning behind it. I think there's logic behind it. I felt like I left the draft a better team. Grady Dick gives me the shooting that I need and a rookie to develop. Isaiah Hartenstein gives me one of the best backup centers in the league, who was frankly misused in New York. We know we believe the Magic had some interest in him last offseason. Yes, he's an expiring, but now you get his early bird rights. You're set up with your backup center behind Wendell Carter for years to come, in my opinion. Honestly, in my opinion. I felt I left that draft a better team. Having said that, I will freely admit that my focus for this draft has changed as I've talked about this draft, as I've begun to really break down some of these players and study these players. For me, that mock draft happened fairly early in my draft process. I'm behind. I was behind on this year's draft. I'm not going to pretend and say that I was totally prepared. I had ideas of what I wanted to do in this mock draft. Certainly getting Grady Dick was something. I was getting a shooter like Grady Dick or Jordan Hawkins. Getting one of those two was one of my goals in this mock draft. So I accomplished that. And filling out that backup center role, to me, that filled an immediate need. And I felt comfortable making a short-term play there. Again, I understand the disagreements. And honestly, like sitting here, I would tell Phil from 3 weeks ago when we did this mock draft, no, man. No. You got that part wrong. And I think that's something that's really important to recognize too. I'm recognizing it myself. I hope you'll give me the grace here too. I do think I was too focused in that mock draft on the short term and thinking that the playoffs were, going for the sugar high, essentially. That's Jeff Weltman likes to call it. We're not going for the sugar high of a 7 or 8 seed. I do think I made a long-term play. I think Hartenstein's a guy that would help this team, but that's neither here nor there. I think I was going for the sugar high of let's just make a playoff team. Let's shore this thing up a little bit more. And relying a little bit too much on free agency. Having said that, if Ausar Thompson were available, I think a lot of my misgiving and look, Grady Dick at 6 is a reach. When we did this mock draft, it was still a reach, but not as big of one as it is now. It is very clear Grady Dick is probably going to be there at 11. Today, with the players that I had available, I wouldn't be thinking move 11. I'd be thinking, let me move down from 6. I would take the gaff. I know I've pitched this deal a few times. I would take trading 6 and OKK, let's say, for 8 and Gafford. Fill my backup center need, still get a bite at the apple in this draft. And then I'd be targeting Taylor Hendricks or Anthony Black. I was not prepared to do that back when we did this mock draft. I was not as high on this class, especially the middle of this first round class, as I was back then. At 11, having taken Grady Dick already, I wasn't really into Derek Lively. And personally, I watched Derek Lively tape all day today. Profile up on OrlandoMagicDaily.com right now. I think that Derek Lively would fit this team. I want a veteran in that backup center role. I think you need someone solid that you can trust. Because again, Wendell Carter's going to miss 15 to 20 games. This is like just bearing into the back of my head here. So, but to that point, then the information that we had, or the intelligence that was publicly available about big boards and all that, and the information, the research that I had done into this draft at that point was still very rudimentary. So, like you, I'm willing to criticize Phil, the Locked On NBA mock draft Phil. I'm very willing to criticize him because I would do things very, very differently today. Like I said, at 6, I would take Ausar Thompson if he's there. If Ausar Thompson's off the board, I would think about Cam Whitmore. I'm still lukewarm on Cam Whitmore, but I'd understand if the Magic took him. Or I'd look to trade down from 6 into that 8, 9, 10 range, get an extra asset, still get a player like Taylor Hendricks, Anthony Black, maybe even Cason Wallace, maybe even Kobe Buffkin, who might be climbing up boards. Maybe take that swing on Bilal Coulibaly that high. And then at 11, take care of my shooter with Grady Dick or Jordan Hawkins. And if not him, take a Derek Lively. You could see, I hope you could just, I think the lesson that I learned, and I hope the lesson that I can convey here is that information changes. A mock draft done on one day is very different from a mock draft done on another day. If you go back 3 weeks ago, mock drafts probably had Grady Dick at 8 or 9. Now I don't see anyone that has him, if the Magic don't take him at 11, he's not going higher than 11. I very rarely see Grady Dick going in the top 10. I think him in the top 10 was fairly normal 3 weeks ago in mock drafts out there, which for whatever they're worth. Today, he's going 11 in the Magic, and that's that. Things seem to have changed. the information or the intelligence seems to have changed, and that would have changed certainly how I reacted to this mock draft. So I accept and agree with all of your criticism. I'm not above being criticized. I deserve criticism. I did not treat this draft perhaps with the respect that it deserved in our NBA mock draft. With the information and intelligence that I had at the moment and the things that I believe the Magic needed to do, I probably shot for a single. And I don't think I didn't sacrifice any long-term assets besides the 11th pick, which, is the 11th pick. If you're getting a backup center 11, I think you're doing okay. But I understand the criticisms. I accept the criticisms. I'm not here to tell you that I was right. I was wrong in that mock draft. I'm willing to admit that. I'm willing to say that. I'm willing to say that, and I'm for sure saying I would play things out completely differently today. Like I said, we'll go into these final options and these final scenarios next week when we get so close to the draft that we can taste it. But I do think it's really, really important to note and to remember a mock draft is different every single day. If we decided to do Locked On NBA Mock Draft Part 2, all of us outside of San Antonio would act completely different. All of us would do something a little bit different. The result might be similar. Some guys just may be like, yep, that's our guy. We're not going to change. But information changes, time changes, sitting with the picks change. Sometimes you overthink things, sometimes you don't. Maybe I underthought things. I'm perfectly willing to say that. That's why I'm not a GM. That's why I'm not usually into the prediction game. I'm admittedly terrible at trades and assessing the value of players. That's why I always say, find a framework for a deal. I don't try to fill in those details. I try to find frameworks for deals. We found frameworks for deals. It's not I don't think that's impossible to do. But I will freely admit that draft, I'm happy with it. I understand what I was trying to do. I hope I conveyed that here with a little bit more clarity. And I understand if you disagree with it still. I would say if the Magic acted, I wouldn't be upset if the Magic acted how I acted in the mock draft. Again, the logic's there, but I would say I don't expect them to act like that. Maybe I never should have. And I would expect this team to do something a little bit not to do something a little bit different, but I would expect this team to use both picks. I would expect this team to take one more bite at the apple. I know I've said on this podcast, I've come around. I think at the beginning of this draft process, I was like, no, let's focus on need. Let's get a player that's going to help us immediately, help us make the playoffs. When we did this mock draft, I was still in that mode. Now I've come around to saying, hold on. Now I've come around to saying, let's get that one last bite at the apple. Let's take a big swing on a guy. We have a second pick to cover us, get that shooter that we need. That's how we should move forward. My draft philosophy has changed in 3 weeks. What I think the Magic need to get out of this draft has changed in 3 weeks. And I don't think that's abnormal to what teams go through, to be perfectly honest. There might be a clarity of purpose, that happens, but there might be competing interests and competing purposes. And you run through all those scenarios and decide which one's the best. Well, very clearly, Magic fandom and Magic Twitter thinks that the go for the playoffs scenario in the draft is a mistake. Well, now we know that. Now we know what that looks like and how that plays out. So let's play out the other way and say, okay, what does one more bite at the apple look like? It looks like Asar Thompson or Cam Whitmore. It looks like Taylor Hendricks. It looks like Bilal Coulibaly. It looks like Derek Lively. I've seen some people say, let's go get Dark Whitehead with that 11th pick. Or even trade down to take a Dark Whitehead. A high potential player that's dealing with a foot injury. It's not out of the realm of possibility. That is the point of these exercises more than anything else. I know my approach. I try not to say commit to one guy. I have some commenters who are like, the Magic need to do this. The Magic need to do that. And I would say, look, don't fall in love with a single prospect, because if they don't draft your guy, you get upset. They still may have made the right pick. these guys have more information than all of us. So, either trust management to do their work and do the right job, or you don't. And I think Jeff Weltman and his crew have earned a little bit of trust. Maybe I haven't. I will. Don't look at some of my previous mock drafts. Some of my previous Locked On mock drafts are terrible, and I will freely admit that. Draft analysis isn't my greatest strength. I don't watch all the college games. I'm an NBA guy. I focus on the NBA season. So I will freely admit where my weaknesses are and where my blind spots are. And this was perhaps a blind spot for me. Thank you for letting me get that off my chest. Defend myself a little bit for whatever it's worth. I appreciate everyone who commented. I appreciate everyone who in the Twitter and on Twitter or wherever I responded, for letting me explain what I was thinking, for letting me admit that, hey, we did this mock draft a little while ago. My thoughts have changed completely. I would do things very, very differently. Can't always bet on civility on Twitter. So I appreciate everyone on social media for letting me say mea culpa, or letting me say, like, hey, this is what I was thinking. I think I'm thinking something different now. I appreciate all of you for that. I appreciate all of you for giving me 20 minutes to explain myself here. So, if I need 20 minutes to explain something, maybe it wasn't the right decision to begin with. When we come back, though, the Orlando Magic are getting set to celebrate their 35th anniversary season. We're going to dive into what to expect and the big debate that's probably going to come to a head this time around. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at Bird Dogs. There we go. Bird Dogs make you look good. Plain and simple. They have the stretch khaki shorts. They're designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. They do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but fit way better, and they don't look like they're stretchy pants or anything like that. They look like real khakis. You can, the shorts you can wear wherever, obviously, but I got a couple of the Bird Dogs, like slacks and khakis. You can wear those to work. I wear my Bird Dogs to work all the time at my day job. They fit way better than stiff, restricting cotton. They have this dull cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki, but stretches so you get way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. And they use anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. That is exactly what you need here in Florida. It's hot outside. I've been walking around outside a little bit. It's summer, guys. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA for a free Yeti style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA for a free Yeti style tumbler. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. The Orlando Magic unveiled their 35th anniversary logo as they get ready to celebrate their 35th anniversary season this coming year. It is a wonderful time. It is a celebration of the Orlando Magic's history. I love anniversary seasons. We're expecting to have all the luminaries back in the Amway Center at some point this season, I would hope. Maybe not all of them. And we're expecting a real great celebration of this team's past. As for a team that does not have any championships, the Orlando Magic have a past that is a history that I think is really worth celebrating. And I love Magic history. It's my history. I grew up with this team. I followed this team my whole life. I've lived a lot of this history. I always love celebrating the Magic and Magic history. And we're going to get into one of the big debates that's going to probably come, I think will probably come to a head this season. But what should you, the fan, expect for this 35th anniversary season? What should you expect? Well, we got the new logo. It's a 35 with the original Orlando Magic basketball logo in the 5. It's very, very cool. It's not this logo. This is the newer logo. We got the original logo is going to be like sprinkled around a little bit more, which even the Magic acknowledge. Fans love the original logo. They love all the original stuff more than anything new. We are probably going to get a throwback jersey this year. The NBA rules stipulate that you can only wear throwback jerseys or retire jerseys in anniversary season. So we are in an anniversary season this year. So we will get to see the Orlando Magic wear a throwback uniform. Now, which throwback uniform is still a little bit of a mystery. So far to this point, the Orlando Magic have only worn the original pinstripe uniforms. And look, no one is going to complain if that is the case again. Everybody loves the original Orlando Magic throwback uniforms. The pinstripes, whether they're white, black, or blue, I think the blue uniforms are the best Orlando Magic jerseys. The blue alternates that started in the 1995 season. I think those are the best Magic jerseys ever made. A lot of people would say it's the black or the white, but essentially everyone agrees that the original pinstripe uniforms are the best. So far, the Orlando Magic have only worn those uniforms. The first time the Orlando Magic brought those jerseys back out of retirement was during the 15th anniversary season back in 2004. That was a year that is mostly forgettable, 21-61 year, the last year with Tracy McGrady. But ever since then, they've rotated between those three uniforms. So it was the black uniform in 2004. I believe it was the white uniform in 2009. They went to the blue uniform in 2014. No, was it? No, they went back to the black uniform in 2014. It was a blue uniform, I believe, in 2009. No, the white uniform in 2009, the Eastern Conference Championship season. Back to the black uniform in 2014, famously the jersey worn when Tobias Harris hit the game-winning dunk against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And then the blue uniform in 2019. Again, we saw that blue uniform, DJ Augustin. I think Trae Young is still looking for DJ Augustin's blue uniform in that game. The rumor, though, going around is that for this anniversary season, the Magic are planning to revive one of the T-Mac era jerseys, those star uniforms that started in 1999 were worn through the 2003 season. These uniforms are not as beloved as the classic pinstripe, but they are still really nice. The like inlaid star pattern was really, really cool. Like Tracy McGrady makes everything look cool because T-Mac is the coolest. But the rumor going around is that the Magic are going to use these uniforms instead of the traditional pinstripes. Whether that'll make people happy or not, I think generally people like those uniforms too, and I'd love to see them back in the rotation some way. But a lot of, I think, the discussion around the Magic for the 35th anniversary season is going to be about Magic style and Magic, what the Magic's logo should be. A lot of everyone is expecting a Magic rebrand, a little bit of a Magic rebrand or refresh in the next few years. I remember when the Magic introduced their current logo. I believe they introduced this current logo in 2010, 11, when they moved into the Amway Center. I remember saying about this logo, like, look, this logo is like the mature version of the original logo. It's still got this, it's still got the secondary logo, the streaking ball logo. It's the font is extremely plain. They dropped the star for the A, which just ticks me off. That's the one stylistic thing that ticks me off. It's like mature. It's devoid of all personality, in my opinion. And I think, I think everyone is like eager. They've worn this jersey set essentially virtually unchanged since 2009. Everyone's ready for a bit of a refresh. And I do think that I don't think we'll get that refresh this year. I think with the 35th anniversary season, the Magic don't want to introduce another new logo. They've got a 35th anniversary logo. They don't need another new logo. But I do think we are coming close to, Alex Barnes has said that they've been working on a little bit of a brand refresh. We are coming probably close to a brand refresh. And look, the Magic have tended to change jerseys and change logos to align with different eras of the franchise. The Magic dropped the pinstripe uniforms in 1999 as part of their 10th anniversary season to sort of distance themselves from Shaq. The Shaq era was done. It was Penny Hardaway's last year, Nick Anderson's last year. They were ready to move on and change their look a little bit. The next time they refreshed their jerseys was 2004. The T-Mac era was coming to an end. They didn't think it was coming to an end, but they changed their jerseys. It got very, very plain and kind of, it's grown on me a little bit since then, but I hope they don't dig those jerseys out for a throwback night. And then they changed their jerseys again in 2009, right as Dwight Howard was getting ready to ascend and as that team was getting ready to become championship team. Obviously, we have Paolo Banchero now. And so it would not surprise me if the Magic are looking to get a jersey to kind of help define his era of Magic basketball. So I think that's in the works. I don't think we'll see it, but we will see a throwback jersey this year. And of course, the most important thing that we could see during the 35th anniversary season is a playoff berth. I know that Alex Martin said during the 25th anniversary season, as the team was introducing the Orlando Magic Hall of Fame, that's a tease for the next segment. He said that they were a little disappointed. This isn't how they imagined spending their 25th anniversary season and a rebuild. Certainly, I think some of that had to do with wanting to still win games while Rich DeVos was still alive. But certainly they're hoping that this will be a full-throated celebration of both the Magic's past, present, and future coming up. Of course, anytime there's an anniversary season with the Orlando Magic, the great debate comes back to the forefront. And Shaquille O'Neal has certainly continued to weigh in on what he thinks about this debate. We'll talk about Shaq's diss rap, as well as what the Magic should do and why it's time. Just frankly, it's time. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at Game Time. There's a lot of great events coming to Central Florida here in the next couple of weeks. We've got Orlando City playing their games. Good luck if you got Inter Miami tickets or not. They have plenty of other games. They're plenty fun without Leo Messi playing. Fulham is coming to Exploria Stadium in July. There's plays still going on. I know I'm seeing Beetlejuice here in a couple weeks. It's a great time to be in Orlando. The summer is the best time to be in Orlando. And if you want tickets to any of these events or to get a head start on Orlando Magic tickets when the schedule comes out, then Game Time is the place for you. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone so you never have to dig through your email. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So on the internet, on Instagram, I believe, Shaq went to Home Depot. One of the things that no Magic fan is talking about is he bought a washer dryer set for a couple inside the Home Depot. He does this. He goes to stores, buy stuff for people because Shaq is actually a genuinely good human being. But he was, joking around like he usually jokes and dropped a few bars and noted once again that his jersey's been retired by the Lakers, by the Heat, but it hasn't been retired by the Orlando Magic. And that sparked the great debate, a debate that I honestly hope the Magic use this 35th anniversary season to put to rest. The Orlando Magic, if you don't know, have only one jersey retired, and that is number 6 for the fans. I hope they also retire 49, but no one wears 49. But 49 is also hanging up in the rafters in honor of the victims of the Pulse nightclub shooting. But the Orlando Magic have kind of drawn a very clear line in the sand. When Alex Martins announced the formation of the Orlando Magic Hall of Fame 10 years ago for the 25th anniversary season, he said in that press conference, we need to find a way to honor our greats, to honor our history in a more visual and a more vivid way. This is how we've decided to do it. And people asked him, would you consider retiring jerseys? Is that something that's been considered? And he said, it is something they've considered. There is a criteria to reach to retire a jersey. No player has reached it yet. And I think he said overtly that winning a championship first is one of the things that they want to do before they hang jerseys in the rafters. That's fine. Everyone's allowed to have their own criteria. What one team does doesn't have to be what another team does. I'm a big fan of the Orlando Magic Hall of Fame. I wish it was more prominent. I wish it had a bigger place inside the arena, inside the Magic experience over on the concourse. I think they've done a better job kind of centering it and making it more a part of that area of the arena. But it is a great way to honor history. David Steele would not get honored without the Orlando Magic Hall of Fame. Darrell Armstrong probably does not get honored without the Orlando Magic Hall of Fame. It is a good intermediate level to make sure key players in the franchise are recognized and remembered without giving them that humongous step of being the elite of the elite that retiring your jersey would give. However, player relations are really, really important. And players talk and players know what's real and what's not real around the league. And players know which teams take care of their people. And frankly, the Magic have not always done great taking care of their alumni. I think they've gotten a lot better at it in the last decade since bringing in the Orlando Magic Hall of Fame. And certainly over the last few years, I think they've gotten a lot better at making sure their alumni are present in the arena and recognized for their contributions to the franchise. When they point out that Hedo Turkoglu is at a game and he gets a standing ovation, that's something they didn't really do except for the last 5 years. And it's important that they do this. And the Orlando Magic Hall of Fame is great. But I have to agree with Shaq here. I've come around on this. I agree that every team should have their own criteria, should have their own process of honoring their own history. But it is time to retire jerseys. It is time to give that last step and recognize this team's history. Because, again, if Shaq ever does buy the Orlando Magic, I guarantee you the first thing he does is he will hang his 32 in the rafters. And guess what? It will be deserved. I know people say he only spent 4 years here, but there is no Orlando Magic. There is no culture of this team without Shaquille O'Neal. Orlando is not what it is today without Shaquille O'Neal as a city. I believe that firmly. Shaq is so important to this team that he deserves that honor. Does he deserve a statue outside that's like a step above retiring a jersey? Probably not. I don't think honestly, only probably Nick Anderson's earned a statue. And people would probably dunk on the Magic for doing that for reasons that don't need mentioning here because they're stupid. Nick Anderson's awesome. I believe it is time to retire jerseys. And I think the 35th anniversary season is a perfect time to start. The list of players who are left to add to the Orlando Magic Hall of Fame is getting smaller. They've done a really good job with it. They've added the right players. I've successfully predicted the players that they've added. Essentially, they're so far behind. They're catching up with 25 years of history that it's not about who to add to the Hall of Fame. It's about what order to put them in. And we are getting to the point now where players from the 2009 team should get in. I would say the only people that are left that need to be in that aren't in already are Scott Skiles, who's not coming. So you can't throw him into the Hall of Fame unless he's there to receive the honor. He's not doing that. I think those emotions are still fairly raw. Jeff Turner. I think Jeff Turner should get in both as a player and a broadcaster. I think that's Orlando Magic Hall of Fame, certainly a key part of this franchise's history. If Matt Guokas wants in, I think if Matt Guokas will come and accept the honor, I'd love to see Matty back in the building and have Matty get recognized for that. He's so key as a broadcaster, and obviously he's the first coach of the team and the beginning stages of this team. And then who's the last guy that I had on my list? I have Alex Martins on my list. Yeah, say what you want about it. He deserves to be in. And I don't think I have anyone else before we start naming the 2009 team. The next guys that should be in are essentially going to be Jameer Nelson, Rashard Lewis, Hedo Turkoglu. And I think it's really hard to add any of those guys before you add Dwight Howard. And so now you're suddenly waiting for Dwight Howard to end his career and retire, which doesn't appear to be happening anytime soon. So if you're doing a 35th anniversary season and you got to honor players and you got to bring someone big in for your anniversary season, I think the answer is kind of obvious what you have to do. You have to take that next step. Now, that's the silly reason. The real reason it's time to retire jerseys is because we are entering a stage where fans only know the Magic's history through the stories that older fans tell or through what's in the fan experience at the Amway Center. The collective memory is starting to fade. And this is how I came around to retiring jerseys. I used to be very cool with what the Magic did. I was like, the Hall of Fame is great. I love it. Let's keep that. That's our thing. You don't have to retire jerseys. I was cool with it. But then I started to think, how many Magic fans are going to remember Nick Anderson for what he gave to this team, for what he did for this team? And how many Magic fans are only going to associate him with Game 1 of the 95 finals? To me, what preserving history means is you preserve that collective memory. You preserve the good of what a player did for your franchise. And obviously, the first number that you hang in the rafters belongs to the original member of the Orlando Magic. The first guy that was part of this team, played 10 years with this team, is still a community ambassador with this team, has given everything of himself in his professional life to this Orlando Magic franchise. You hang number 25 in the rafters first. Nick Anderson always comes first. And to me, as someone who grew up watching him, loved watching him play, to me, that is so important. To me, making sure this fan base remembers, recognizes, respects, and reveres Nick Anderson is like the most important mission as a Magic historian. Because he has one moment that is so negative that if you only know Magic history through national media, if you only watched this Magic moment, which is a great documentary, that cannot be how Magic fans remember Nick Anderson. And now that there's a whole generation of people who haven't seen him play, because, he left the team after the 99 season, so it's been 23 seasons since he last played. There are people who never saw him. There are Magic fans who never saw him play that don't understand how important he is. And so when you hang that banner up in the rafters, you're forced to, recognize his importance. Everyone who enters the Arena Bowl will see that 25 and recognize his importance. And it forces you to remember him positively. It is a little bit of, propaganda. And I'm here for Nick Anderson propaganda. Nick Anderson propaganda is good. That is why I believe the Magic need to start retiring jerseys. And yes, after you do 25, 32 for Shaq, 1 for Penny, 1 for T-Mac, 12 for Dwight. That's where I cut it off. I've seen some people say that maybe Nikola Vucevic should be up there, and I love Vuce. Vuce is my guy. He's an Orlando Magic Hall of Famer all the way, not retiring his jersey. I've seen some pitches, and I've maybe pitched this myself, that Darrell Armstrong might deserve a jersey retirement. And look, I love Darrell. Darrell is at home in the Orlando Magic Hall of Fame. Bo Outlaw was the other one that I was thinking of to get in the Magic Hall of Fame. Darrell Armstrong deserves his place in the Hall of Fame. That's a cutoff for me for jersey retirement. Jersey retirement is for the Mount Rushmore of guys. And that Mount Rushmore is Nick, Penny, Shaq, T-Mac, Dwight. I know that's one extra, but that's my Mount Rushmore for the Orlando Magic. Those are the 5 most important players in Orlando Magic history. And so if the Magic want to make a big splash this 35th anniversary season, Shaq is right. It's time to retire jerseys. That doesn't mean Shaq comes in this year. But a surprise ceremony for Nick Anderson would be awesome and emotional. Not a surprise ceremony because you need to plan it, get everyone in. But a surprise announcement for Nick Anderson would be awesome and would set the table for okay, we're ready to really seriously celebrate our history and play some catch up on things that other franchise would have done a long time ago. It's time. And this 35th anniversary season is a perfect time to do it. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the fun places on podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicGala.com. Like I said, my profile on Derek Lively is up on the site right now, or should, by the time I publish this, it'll be up. So definitely check that out. Really interesting prospect. We'll have a couple more draft profiles coming up before we get to the NBA draft. And of course, we'll be back with Mock Draft Monday on Monday. For my everyday listeners preparing for Monday's mock draft, I'm going to kind of do best case, worst case scenarios, or I'm going to do, I'm thinking of doing from this mock draft, okay, here's who they picked. Here's the other option. Here's the other guy that they could look at. We'll really dive into what the Magic's options are on our mock draft Monday on Monday. So definitely check that out when we get to it on Monday. And of course, please, it's big time of the year for the latest news and thoughts on the Orlando Magic. Check out my subtext. You can go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnMagic. That's joinsubtext.com/LockedOnMagic for more info. I may be putting some subtext exclusive stuff on there. I'm trying to figure out how to do some of that stuff, but we will chat plenty on there. It's like having my cell phone. It's like being able to text me directly and talk to me about the Orlando Magic. I'm always here to answer questions, so I'm very, very looking forward to that. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. For Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Phil Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.